Science. Technology. Medicine. Health. These four things make the world go round. Without them, we couldn't exist. This is the Monday Science Podcast, a weekly show bringing you the latest research and news in science, technology, medicine, and health, answering your questions or finding experts in the field to answer them. Your host is a pharmacist, an award-winning scientist. She leads her own research group and is the founder of King's College London Fight the Fakes. A tad bit on the qualified side. Welcome to Monday Science. Here's your host, Dr. Bahijja Raimi-Abraham.
Hello, welcome back to Monday Science. Yeah, so where have I been? What's been going on? So many questions I'm sure you're asking. In fact, let's be honest, were you expecting this episode today? Probably not. I'm Dr. Bahijja Raimi-Abraham, the very tired host and founder of Monday Science. How is everyone? What's going on? I've been good. It's just been a little bit hectic. First and foremost, welcome to new listeners, regular listeners. I don't know, is there anything else other than new or regular listeners? New, regular? No, I think that's pretty much it. So you can tell what type of episode this is going to be today. It's the end of the day at work. I'd actually planned to try and record this yesterday, but I didn't get a chance to. So first and foremost, for those who are new to Monday Science, you just happened to stumble across this episode and thought, why is it called Monday Science? What is Monday Science? Firstly, Monday Science is supposed to be a weekly podcast which focuses on the latest in science, technology, medicine, and health. And that's how it was when it first started. Sorry, there's an email come through. Look at life. That's how it was when I first started the podcast. And for the most part, it is weekly. And then there's some occasions which seem to be coming a little bit more regularly where plans are being made. And then I'm like, yes, next week's episode will be about da-da. And then it's not. So normally Monday Science is weekly, but there are occasions where it's hard to be weekly. And I'm going to talk about why it is hard to be weekly. Just as an FYI, I have no clue where this episode is going. It could end up being a rambling about life. Hopefully not. No, I'm not sure where this episode is going, but it's going to go somewhere. And that will then form the title of this episode, not Dr. Bahijja's Ramblings. It will be Science and something. Okay. So yeah, Monday Science I shouldn't say originally, is a weekly podcast. And I started May 2020, I think it was May 11th. So 3-year anniversary coming up. And in that time, I've had several different guests that have come on, expertise from a range of topics. It's really been a great experience. I realize as I'm saying this, it sounds as if I'm about to say this is the end of Monday Science. No, it's not the end. It's only the beginning. No, it's not the end. But I'm just giving a little bit of backstory because it's been a few weeks, but I just want to allow me to talk. So since Monday Science has been born, can I say born? Yeah, born. We've achieved a lot. Top 20 science podcast list globally, different parts of the world. Best UK science podcast by FeedSpot 2021, 2022, so far 2023, but I will double check that. We're listed on Spotify's Amplifying Black Voices playlist, received funding from the Royal Society of Chemistry for a project that highlighted diversity in the chemical sciences. And then more recently, we were on Amazon Music's Best Podcast of the Week. That was in February. So all very exciting stuff. And I've been very lucky with the podcast that I've had support by way of volunteers over the course. And more recently, I've got some placement students who are supporting aspects of the social media. For those who've been listening since 2020 and you joined, you will notice that every so often I dip out. And it's not that I even plan it. How challenging it is to run a podcast. I never thought it was going to be easy, but run a podcast run a research group, run King's College London Fight the Fakes. What else do? I do other things. And it is challenging. And every so often, it's not possible to be great at everything, unfortunately. And at times, things with Monday Science do dip where it's not it's not regular, it's not weekly. But having said that, I'm actually now starting to put structures in place. So actually, what I did want to come on to talk about today, not just these ramblings, which it's turning out to be that way, but I actually wanted to talk about what it's like to start a podcast. I don't think I've actually spoken about that before. And so, whilst I have your time, I'm going to talk about what it has been like for me starting a podcast and what it takes to start a podcast and why you should start one if you want to and why maybe you shouldn't. And maybe I can talk a little bit about what I've learned, what I would do differently, and what I hope for the future with Monday Science. So, here we go. I've mentioned a few times that I wanted to start a podcast prior to Monday Science. There were a couple of people that we'd thought about starting a podcast together, and we had some practice episodes and things like that, but things didn't take off. And so by the time it came to starting Monday Science, I had read so many different articles about what it takes to start a podcast, what's required to start a podcast, the practical thing. That's what I focused on. Okay, what do I need? I need a microphone. How am I going to record? And at the time, there was more of a focus on audio podcast, and then it was sort of like audio podcasts and put whatever you can on YouTube. Now you'll see that there's a massive shift. And I think because with the pandemic, the rise in people starting podcasts and the rise in demand for podcasts increased. So podcasting has shifted quite swiftly from being audio to just video. Everybody wants to see everybody's face. And I struggled with that transition because I was comfortable. I've always been comfortable to talk. Here we are. But now you want to see me? Why do you want to see me? I was interviewed for the King's College London International Women's Day, and it was talk about, women who are using technology to improve society. And I talked about the podcast and things like that. But I would say the journey for podcasting for me has been interesting and it has been challenging. So as I mentioned, we all know it was, mainly audio podcasts, and even people who listen to podcasts, but they listened on YouTube. It was okay to just have YouTube on in the background and it would just be maybe a picture or a wave form or something like that. But now the way podcasting is, it's not enough to just have audio, even though some people still stick to that. But I think those are people who started podcasting probably before 2020. So that's one thing with podcasting now. If you wanted to get into podcasting, know that audio is not enough. Okay. You would need to think about video podcasting. That's the main thing. And then putting clips on YouTube, putting things on TikTok, putting things on Instagram. I don't really want to talk about Twitter. I don't use Twitter like that anymore. But these are the platforms that you'd have to consider. And I say all of this, okay, please go and look at our YouTube channel. We've only got 46 subscribers, so please subscribe because the videos are there. But even on the platform that we use on Spotify, you can watch the episodes as video form. But that transition is different. I record in various different locations, but recording an audio podcast, I don't need to look good. I can look however I want to look. And so can the person I'm interviewing, sorry. However, now that it's video, you now have to be like, okay, what do I look like? What are my facial expressions? So particularly when interviewing people, at times, I'm like, oh gosh, I look as if I'm not enjoying myself, but I am. All it is just clearly when I don't smile. See, like I've just done it now. So if I'm looking like this, does that not looks like I'm also, you have to remember that in the hour and the 35 minutes, 40 minutes that you're interviewing somebody, you've got to remember your face with video podcasting. So that's something that's changed. I feel like I'm going off topic because I have no script. I'm just talking. So we'll go with the flow. So yeah, podcasting, that's definitely something that has changed. And with that comes a bit of a challenge. Sorry, just talking about the video podcasting side of things. The reason that becomes a challenge, not so much about, okay, yes, my face when I'm interviewing, making sure I'm engaged, sure, or my face is engaged and I'm not looking as if I'm not happy, because people can read into that. But also I think we're in a world right now where what do you keep for yourself? I'm not trying to say I keep my face for myself. That might sound weird. But what do we keep for ourselves? So if you're interested in podcasting, I'm not saying you can't do an audio podcast. You can, but just be mindful of what the audience would want and what the audience expect as well. So that's one thing. Then the other thing with podcasting, initially I started out doing everything on my own social media. Well, I still do the editing. So I record, I edit, I produce, I check, make sure the sound and everything is okay. I do all the artwork for the episodes, and yeah. So these are skills that I've learned over time. Now, if we look at some of the editing, oh gosh, it's awful. I don't want to listen to the first episode of Monday Science because the sound, I know, I actually listened to it sometime last year. I was like, oh, the sound was awful. When I listened to some of the episodes, the editing is wow. But that's something that has been a fun skill to learn over time. But it's also been a case of trial and error. And so when I'm there, like, watching things on YouTube or looking at clips on how to like improve the podcast, and they're like, your production must be amazing, your sound must be amazing. I'm like, I'm only one person. So there's the other point. When you're thinking of starting a podcast, think about, do you have the capital to hire people to where you don't have the skill, or do you also have the bandwidth to learn these new skills? And I know some people will be thinking, I'm sure I could outsource the production and the editing, but I actually I enjoy it. It's a torture, but I do enjoy it. And I found that over time, because I'm becoming more professional in my craft as a podcaster, I now actually acknowledge that I am a podcaster. But because I'm becoming more professional and knowledgeable and skilled in my craft, I'm finding that I'm also, when it comes to the interview type episodes, I'm able to bring out the best in the person I'm interviewing, as well as making sure that I myself, my best form on camera as well. So that's that. I really hope this is resonating with somebody. I mean, we're rolling with it. I actually need to go soon. I'm meant to be going for dinner. So this is a quick episode before I go for dinner. So what else has changed? So, oh, right. One of the big things I haven't talked about is managing the podcast whilst having a job. Not even just having a job, let me be specific, whilst being an academic. Yeah, it is tough. For those who don't know, I'm an academic. I love being an academic. I don't love all of it. I'm sure some of my friends who are listening were like, do you? No, I don't love everything about being an academic, but I do like the vast majority of it. And so my research group, the Raimi-Abraham group, check us out, website www.theraimi-abraham.com. My research group is amazing. The team they're amazing. I'm a pharmacist, and then expertise in pharmaceutical sciences. My research is focused on looking at infectious diseases. We look at that in my group as two ways. So one, the first way is developing these 3D in vitro models for different diseases. So we're working on tuberculosis, we're working on malaria, we're working on kidney infections. That's what we've got so far. We've also got a gastro or an intestinal model, and these models are made with cells, non-animal models, to help with ethical testing of new medicines and also repurposed medicines. So medicines that are already on the market, but they're just wanting to know, could it be used for this different use? Something that I should say actually is interesting, metformin is a very interesting drug. It's an anti-diabetic. And what people are finding is metformin seems to have advantages in many different diseases, also including infectious diseases. I was reading a paper about metformin use as an anti-TB drug. Very interesting. Maybe I should do a whole topic on metformin. Let me know. Is that going to be of interest, actually? You see, that's the other thing. How much of I do talk about my stuff sometimes, but I don't think I do talk enough about my research. But if you would be interested in the metformin topic, info@mondaysciencepodcast.com. So where was I? What was I talking about? My research, right. So models, we've got those non-animal models, sustainable, ethical testing of medicine, so we don't need to use animals. And the overall aim is infectious diseases, but we also start off with the organ in question first. So if it's kidney, then we make a model, non-animal based kidney model. If it's liver, we do look at the liver. Then we look at, for example, with the liver, something called hepatotoxicity. So how are the drugs affecting the liver? And then the second arm of my research looks at use of nanotechnology. How? But how? That is the question, yeah. So we use a sustainable method called green synthesis. That's overall the name. And it's essentially using plants and plants extract to make nanoparticles, metallic nanoparticles, or they can also be referred to as metallodrugs. And why are these interesting? So the metallodrugs have the potential to have a simultaneous ability to detect an infection and then to treat an infection. So we work with silver, gold, nanoparticulate systems. And with that, right now we're looking at tuberculosis and then just like a broader spectrum of bugs. But why I'm interested in this is looking more at latent infections, latent and asymptomatic infections. And these are infections that are hidden in the body somewhere and are quite hard to detect. So that's my research. And because I'm interested in infectious diseases overall, it led me down this path of getting into fake medicines. Why is that? So in 2019, I was on this bit of a journey. It was actually before 2019, 2017, 2018. I started as an academic 2017. And I was interested, I've always been interested in global health. And I was like, right, global health is such a broad term. So I thought, where can I focus? What's my interest? And so infectious diseases was it. My postdoctoral research was on nanofabrication. So that's where I've gotten into this nano, not necessarily with the green synthesis. We make nanofibers as well and use those in our non-animal based infectious disease models. But on this journey around infectious diseases, I then had an event that was really a focus on infectious diseases, specifically in Nigeria and Ghana. And something that kept coming up was this issue of fake medicine. When we're talking about the mortality, so the number of people that pass from infectious diseases and the impact that has, something that kept coming up was medicines access. So if you remember, I'm a pharmacist as well, so I have that interest in medicines access and medicines management. Just say medicines access means access to medicines, and medicines management is how you manage your medicines. In this event, it was highlighted the impact that fake medicines have on people's ability to access medicines, but people's ability to treat the infections. And at the time, the school of thought was that malaria, anti-malarials and anti-tuberculosis, but generally anti-infectives were one of the most falsified medicines globally. And so I was like, right, okay, I'd like to get involved in this, but not necessarily from the science side. I just wanted to contribute to raising awareness on the global issue of fake medicines. And so I founded the King's College London Fight the Fakes chapter. And that was April 2020. So that was interesting because it wasn't planned. Started King's College London Fight the Fakes, and I was meant to be advocating against fake medicines and highlighting the impact it has. But in true academic fashion, I was like, oh, there are things that we need to do here. So the fake medicines work, it is a research topic in its own right. In my group, we've published some articles about this, but it's not the main part of my work. And I'm saying that with a huge smile on my face for anybody watching this, because you will know that it is becoming an increase. We've got a few papers coming out. It is becoming an increasing part of my work, but it's linked more with the advocacy and awareness. And there's some interesting projects that hopefully will come to fruition towards the end of the year in this area. Why am I saying all of this? So that's the portfolio of work that I do. Now, one thing to remember as an academic, you have your research side. You also have your teaching side. So I'm also a lecturer. I teach mainly the second years and master students around formulation design. So making medicines, how to make medicines, all the different considerations. So there's that. And then also as an academic, you have admin. Don't go on Twitter and look at academic Twitter. Academic Twitter right now is on fire because everybody's tired and everybody's stressed. And I generally don't contribute to these discussions, not because of anything. It's just when you're living it, and then I sometimes I don't have the bandwidth and the energy to talk about the challenges of being an academic, because for all the challenges, I know that I do enjoy it. I've had moments where I'm like, is this where I'm meant to be? I'm not sure. Am I going to leave academia? Gosh, I'm being so honest today. What's happening? Maybe it's because I'm hungry. But I've had those moments where I'm like, I'm not sure if this is for me. It's such a challenge. Why am I here? And maybe it's a good thing to constantly question where you are in your career, because when you then come around and say, oh, actually, no, I'm happy. This is maybe not happy, but this is where I'm meant to be. Because sometimes you're meant to be somewhere, you're not necessarily happy about it. But, you know, there are times where you have to, I do think it's important throughout your career journey to check and double check and verify. Are you happy with where you are? Is this what you want to do? If it is, cool, then you reflect. In fact, that was a piece of advice somebody gave me, that every year you should reflect and say, is this what I want to do? Am I happy in this role? And in academia, it's tricky because a lot of non-academics find this weird, what I'm about to say. But my probation period as an academic was 3 years, and that's very standard. I'll say in the UK, I don't know what happens in other parts of the world. So my probation period was 3 years. So we tend to have 3-year probation. Then you have, depending on your institute, how you come out of probation is different. So I know for those in finance, they're like, 3 years? What? Non-academics are like, why 3 years? What did you do wrong? I'm like, nothing. I did do wrong. It takes a while to build up your academic career. Where was I going with this? Yes, the things that academia. So it takes a while to build your academic career, and it's very demanding. You've got different aspects of your role. And when people say to me, oh, so summer holidays are coming up, bet you're excited. I'm like, for what? What does that mean? What do you think that means to me? What do you think summer holidays mean to me? Because a lot of people assume that, yay, it's summer break, so you guys are off. No, still here, still working. So being an academic has a lot of benefits. I do enjoy it, but when the challenges hit, it's really hard to come out from the funk at times. It can be a bit challenging when you've got grant deadlines, paper deadlines, admin, teaching, exam preparation. It can just be very overwhelming. And at those moments, as much as I would love to come on and give my best self and be like, hi, Monday Sciences, how's everything going? What are you up to? I'll be honest with you, it's a challenge. And it's not because I don't want to, but it just can be a bit of a challenge. Now it brings on to the other point. So the podcast, I initially did, I don't know, actually, I was about to say that I intended it to be interview based. No, actually, I just was like, I'm doing a podcast and I want to have these conversations about latest research. I do like interviewing people. I love talking to other people in different fields, other scientists, non-scientists, and finding out about their research and what they're doing, especially for topics like I thoroughly enjoyed the Love in the Digital Age series because I had no background of any of the topics, and that's what I really enjoy. However, please note, for every one guest that comes on the podcast, that's one guest out of 20, maybe 30 people who have been contacted, and usually one or two say yes. So that's one thing that's really challenging. Now, I'm so sorry if this comes across very negative about academia. No, it's not meant to be, but sometimes I can be quite sarcastic, but thanks to academia, I am not like, I'm okay with rejection. Oh my gosh, that's really bad. I am, because in academia, you can try and publish a paper, it'll get rejected, and then you just have to go somewhere else. Where I have struggled with rejection is grants. I still can't really, I'm not too okay when I get a grant rejection. I'm like, my heart. But with academia, because of the nature of it, you do kind of get used to rejection in a way. So when I send emails and I don't get a response or someone says no, I'm not offended. I'm just like, oh, okay, noted. I might come back to them. I'm now trying to make sure I follow up and say, oh, can I come back to you with a follow-up? Can I, like, what can I do, And so, yeah, it could just be really tricky to get guests. That's why I'm always so grateful when anybody comes on. I'm like, I'm so excited. So excited to have you on here. Like, thank you. Because I genuinely am. I'm like, thank you for your time and thank you for replying my email. That's one thing to note when it comes to podcasts. If you want to have an interview style podcast, especially although I've been very lucky because I've had people say yes to me who I was like, oh, they said yes. Wow, amazing. In fact, I've been very lucky, but I think it's just important to note the challenges when it comes to podcasting and what kind of style you may want. I'm not really sure where I'm going with this episode, by the way, but you're with me now, so you're stuck. So in terms of where I would like Monday Science to go next, I really would like to get back to regular posting. And one of the things I've had to acknowledge with what comes with regular posting is I probably need to talk a little bit more about me, probably need to talk a little bit more about the group, what we do, our research, the Raimi-Abraham group. I probably need to also link that with, interviews and talking to other people. But I think there's more that I should probably be doing to showcase my own research. So that's one thing that I'm going to start. Actually, what I would like to do with Monday Science as it relates to the podcast is to push more content that is twofold. One, linked with my research, and where you get to find out a little bit more about what we're doing and updates. When we have a new paper out, publication update, this is what we published, this is what we found. Thinking about it, there's a paper we did about remote 3D printing and stuff like that. I can talk a little bit more about the plant work. That would be quite cool. And then I still love interviewing. I don't like to be a narrow-minded scientist. I love to find out what other people are doing, what's going on. I still don't know enough about tech. I'm in it, I'm trying. So I'm hopefully going to have a regular guest that's going to talk to us probably monthly, every 2 months, about tech. And we're going to get into that. In fact, if you're listening now, maybe you can also teach me how to code. That would be great. So that's going to come up. I think with the way the world has changed so much over the last 3 years, we need to have conversations about tech. Like, we need to talk about ChatGPT, because the conversations are interesting, and I think we need to talk about it. So definitely going to have more of that. Definitely going to have more interviews. Even though I've not been posting, I've been interviewing some people. So we've got topics coming up about psychedelics. But what I would like to know from you guys is, did you prefer having a topic, a theme over 4 weeks? Or would you have preferred one episode about this, then the next week we talk about something else, and then this other week we talk about something else? I don't know, because that's something that I would like to make sure, like, at the end of the day, I'm having fun. I'm having a great time over here. However, I want to make sure you guys are having a great time and you are getting enough from the podcast. And so email me. You can send me a voice note. The details are on the website at www.mondaysciencepodcast.com. I just want to make sure that I am creating content that is useful, that is informative, that is what you guys want to hear. So with that being said, please do get in touch, because I don't want to keep trying different things and not sticking to something that I know the audience likes. So yeah, on that note, I am running tremendously late for dinner. I'm going to go now. This has been a joy to record, because it's just been so free-flowing and perhaps a bit chaotic and all over the place. Who will know? I will know when I try and edit this, and I'll be like, no, Bahijja, what were you doing there? But whichever way, thank you to whoever is listening to this today. I am always grateful for not only the people who come on the show to come and talk and share their knowledge. That's always it's just amazing. But I'm also thankful whenever I get the notification, like, you've had this listener, or when I go on the dashboard and I see, I'm like, yay, welcome back. Thank you so much. So I am so incredibly grateful. I cannot say it enough how grateful I am to just have people listen to Monday Science. There are other things. I just realized I didn't talk enough about the future plans, but there are other things, but I can't really talk about them yet because they're in development. Look at me trying to create an air of mystery. But anyway, guys, I'm going to go for dinner. You're probably listening to this. Well, our episode's posted 7 a.m. in the morning. Don't ask why 7 a.m. I don't know. I like 7 a.m. as a time. But I'm going to go for dinner now. I'm hungry. It's been a long day. But do you know what? This has been really nice. It's been really nice to speak to everyone, and it's been really nice to share. So hope you enjoy the rest of the day or evening, whatever time you're listening to this episode. And thank you so much for listening to my ramblings today. Next week's episode will be a news episode, and then we'll take it from there, because I want to see what your feedback is on what